Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this sermon for Parshat Beha'alotcha. It's been a difficult week. In the wake of the terrible killing of George Floyd, a new consciousness of persistent and glaring injustice has pervaded societies across the world. Once popular TV shows have been pulled from circulation because of fears that they might cause offence. CEOs who have dared to make light of what is going on have stepped down in shame. A crowd in Bristol has torn down the venerable statue of Edward Colston and dumped it in the harbour in retribution for his slave trafficking between 1680 and 1692. There are countless stories of microaggression where black and minority ethnic people are passed over for promotion, awarded lower salaries, or more likely to be considered guilty of crime or subjected to violence by the police. The time we live in calls out for us to decide where we stand. What does the Torah say then about race? We don't have to look far. The beginning of our Parshat Beha'alotcha gives us an insight into the proper interaction between Jews and the rest of humanity. The Parsha begins with an instruction to Aaron, the high priest, about the menorah in the temple. And this is what he says. When you bring up the lights, the 7 lights will shine towards the center of the menorah. The menorah was a 7-branched golden candelabra. It had a central stem with a lamp on top. Branching out from the central stem were 6 other branches, each curving up and out and topped by a lamp on a level with the central lamp. The Talmud points out that the term Beha'alotcha does not just mean when you light, but rather when you cause to go up. Aaron's job was not just to light the lamps, it was to light them ad shetehei hashalhevet olam me'eleha, until the flame in that lamp goes up by itself. What does all this mean? And why is the Torah so keen to stress that Aaron could not simply light the flames of the menorah, but had to make each flame go up by itself? First of all, let us recall that in Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, King Solomon famously compared the human soul to a lamp. Somehow, when Aaron lit the menorah, he was teaching a lesson about the human soul. Secondly, we can see a meaning in the fact that the menorah had 7 lamps. We already know about 6 and 7 from the creation story at the beginning of the Torah. God created the world in 6 days, and then the 7th day was the holy day of Shabbat. 6 represents the 6 directions of the physical world, up and down, and the 4 points of the compass. 7 is the 6 of the physical world, made holy with an extra ingredient, the spirituality which gives meaning to our actions in the physical world. The central straight branch of the menorah is the spiritual core of the world, and the 6 branches off it are the physical world, born of the spiritual center's spiritual meaning and bringing spirituality out into the physical world. Thinking about the 7 branches and their lamps together, we get a deeper message. The lamp on the central branch represents people who have found spirituality. They stand tall and straight. They are the center which situates and orientates everything else. The lamps on the other 6 branches represent people in the world of 6. They may be cast adrift in the physical world, living more or less remotely from the central truths that make life worth living. What does the priest do? He must not simply make each lamp shine momentarily with his light and then leave it to subside into darkness. Rather, he has to hold his light there until the flame in each lamp finds its own strength and is able to shine out an enduring light of its own in its right place. And this is the role of every Jew regarding our sisters and brothers, the billions of people who make up all the nations of the world. Shemot, Exodus chapter 19, says that when we Jews received the Torah, God said to us, "You will be for me a kingdom of priests." We have an incredible duty and calling as Jews. We are summoned to care for the souls of the whole of mankind, just like Aaron the high priest tended the lamps in the menorah. Just as Aaron had a light in his hand, which he used to make the lamp shine, so we too have the light of Torah in our hands. Our mitzvot, our prayer, our Torah study, our Jewish values They are our light. If we encounter people, Jewish or not, who are lost in the world of six, living a life that is devoid of spirituality and meaning, we can reach out to them with our light and make them shine. Simply by living a Torah-based life ourselves, we can serve as the most incredible inspiration to others to do good, to live better. But this is not all. Aaron had to be careful not to make the lamps of the menorah depend on his light or shine with his light. Rather, he had to make them shine independently with their own light, holding his own flame there until the flame of each lamp in the menorah sprang up by itself. Similarly, we have to be careful not to try to make everyone like ourselves. If we seek to swamp another spiritual expression with our own, that is a failure, just as much as neglecting others' spirituality altogether is a failure. We are to avoid spiritual imperialism. We are not to create a sense of dependence. Rather, we simply look to give others that initial spark so that they can shine by themselves, realizing their own spiritual potential and fulfilling the divine mission into which they were born in the way that is best for them, fitting with their own ethnicity, circumstances, and spiritual strengths. Notice how the lights on the 6 branches are not lit differently. It makes no difference whether a lamp is closest to the center or furthest away, or somewhere in between. Each lamp was filled with the same olive oil to the same level. Each lamp was on a level with every other. We are duty-bound to believe that everyone can shine, and we are duty-bound to give to everyone who will take it that spark of goodness which they need and deserve so that they can shine. Slavers throughout history have seen their slaves as commodities to be bought and sold. In the 18th and 19th centuries, people talked about white gold and black gold. White gold was sugar, and black gold was the slave labor used to produce it. The slave's spiritual value and potential have been crushed and cast aside for the sake of profit. In our own time, the scourge of racial prejudice and a culture of benefactor and victim still locks many people in a cycle of underachievement, despair, and anger. But thousands of years ago, Aaron the high priest taught that every human is a lamp of God, to be lovingly tended until they shine by themselves with their own special light. When Aaron stretched his hand to each of those lamps on the menorah, he knew that he could make every lamp shine. As his followers, as a would-be kingdom of priests, we have that same assurance in our own minds about every human we encounter, irrespective of the color of their skin, their background, their language, their culture, or whatever other artificial barrier we might care to set up. By sharing the light of Torah and mitzvot, we can make everyone shine. We have to learn. We have to do. And we have to reach out. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for listening. Here's to a fairer and brighter world.